This is China's next level capsule hotel high-speed sleeper train, featuring over 850 individual sleeping pods. And over the next 12 hours, I'll be putting it to the test as we travel over 2,000 kilometers overnight from Beijing all the way south to Shenzhen. So, what is it actually like to sleep on a revolutionary sleeper train like this? Let's go find out.
这一期，外国博主坐上中国一趟夜间高铁卧铺，结果他发现这根本不是一列普通火车，这就像花128美元租了一间移动酒店房间，醒来后发现自己已经身处出发地以南2000公里处，从北京到深圳2200多公里，睡一觉就到。这种距离放在欧洲，几乎就是一次跨国大迁徙。可在中国，它被压缩成了12个多小时，而且不是坐硬座熬过去，而是躺在高速列车里一路南下。他刚上车就被镇住了，整列车像一座移动的胶囊酒店，850多个独立睡眠舱，直接把卧铺火车做出了未来感。更夸张的是，这不是慢悠悠的老式夜车，而是一边睡觉一边以每小时250公里的速度穿越中国。床铺、插座、阅读灯、储物空间、洗漱包、零食饮料、餐车和干净厕所，全都不是摆设，而是真正服务长途乘客。他最破防的一刻是拿欧洲做对比，这段距离相当于哥本哈根到罗马，但中国一夜之间就跑完了，而欧洲夜车从慕尼黑到罗马还要14个小时，距离更短，时间却更长。这个反差才是真正刺痛人的地方。到了价格，他又愣住了，860元人民币，固定票价，躺着跑完半个中国。他认为这个价格非常合理，所以这趟车震撼他的不只是车厢设计，而是中国把速度、规模、舒适度和性价比同时塞进了一张车票里。他也承认有缺点，比如窗帘隔音一般，没有可锁门和小桌板，但作为单人旅客，他宁愿选这个，也不想挤欧洲6人卧铺。接下来，让我们跟随外国博主的镜头，看看这趟被他称为世界上最独特火车之一的中国夜间高铁，究竟怎样把西方人的铁路想象直接打碎。
And wow, does this not look like something straight out of a science fiction movie? Almost the entire train is laid out with these pods, with beds alternating placement between the aisle and window side. And here's my upper bunk for the night. The pods themselves are largely identical, with the lower ones offering slightly more headroom and a larger window, but they do also cost slightly more. I'll tell you just how much I paid for this trip towards the end of the video, but for now, it's time to climb into the pod and get ready for departure. Waiting at every bunk is a fresh set of clean bedding, which seems to actually be of really good quality. Nightjet, please take note, your pillows are pathetic in comparison. I already thought the Nightjet pods were cool, but on a 16-carriage high-speed train, well, that's a whole different level. After the departure of this overnight high-speed train bound for Shanjiang, we are ready for our departure. We depart Beijing bang on time at 19:43, beginning this mammoth over 2,200 kilometer long journey to the south of China. As there's not much to see out of the window at this hour, let's instead turn our attention to the interior of the train, after the route map for today's journey. We are on board train D901, which will make a handful of stops on its 2,225 kilometer long route that's scheduled to take just 12 hours and 33 minutes to reach Shenzhen Bay Station, giving the train an average speed of an impressive 177 kilometers per hour. Right, we are now speeding out of Beijing, so let's take a closer look at the pods for the night. So of course this is not the most spacious place to sleep in the world, but it is actually quite nice. So first of all, you got this adjustable back support, making sitting upright more comfortable, and it also moves further back to give you more headspace when sleeping. Then you have two fairly large shelves, one of which I use to store my bag, and the other one is handy for charging your phone as it's close to the power socket. This is also where you'll find the button for the main light in the cabin. In terms of suitcases, I saw most people store them on this floor space, with other passengers carrying very large bags placing them in the corridor. A small reading light is also present by the back support, as well as a very badly placed coat hook. If you were to use this, your coat would be hanging in your face all night. That doesn't seem very smart. Overall, this feels a bit more spacious than a nightjet pod, but without some of the smart features like the lockable doors and a tray table. We'll take a closer look at the rest of the train's interior a bit later in the video, but now we are making our first station stop. This is Zhou-Dong, serving a fairly small city, at least by Chinese standards, of around 600,000 people. Our train has a 14-minute stop here, as two faster high-speed services need to overtake. China's high-speed railway network operates across several different tiers. The fastest trains, like the one passing us now, can run at speeds of up to 350 km per hour and are often found between the major population centers. Much more common across the entire country is trains like ours operating at around 250 km per hour. And then on the lower end, the slowest kind of Chinese high-speed trains generally operate at around 200 km per hour. And with all the overtaking complete, we now head back into the darkness for another hour or so of non-stop high-speed running. After our stop, the train staff came around with a pretty big amenity bag, which I was not expecting. Inside the bag was a cold bottle of green tea, as well as so many snacks. You even get a few handy amenities like a comb and toothbrush, as well as a few towels. And you definitely won't go hungry on board this train. If those snacks aren't enough to keep you going, there's also a small bistro on board. In fact, out of the 16 carriages on this high-speed sleeper train, it's the only one that isn't packed with beds. So, let's go and take a wander through the train. The bistro is located roughly in the middle of the train. On offer is a selection of light meals, snacks, as well as hot and cold beverages. Pretty good for any late night cravings. On the way back, I stopped by the washroom area, which is also where you'll find the train's public water dispenser, something that's pretty common on trains in this part of the world. Next to this, you'll find this small area with a sink and a mirror, handy for brushing your teeth and freshening up before bed or in the morning. Over here is where you'll find some of the train's toilets. Overall, this toilet was looking pretty clean and was equipped with a Western-style toilet. I actually thought this was the flush button, but turns out that was actually for the toilet seat, and this is actually the flush button. But overall, the toilet was clean, well stocked and functional, so it gets a thumbs up. After that little wander, I decided it was time to get cozy under the blanket. The feet space is definitely a little narrow, and this was also the moment I realized that this shelf is actually where the person sleeping behind you has their feet. Next up, we slow down to make our second stop of the night. We arrive here next to a more traditional Chinese high-speed sleeper train, featuring the more common layout of having 4-person rooms with 2 bunk beds on each side. After completing our brief stop here, we are on the move again, heading back into the night next to this classic Chinese local-haul sleeper train, operating on the Legacy network. You can actually still take sleeper trains like this between major cities like Beijing and Shenzhen, but instead of making the trip in just 12 hours, it takes closer to 2 days. And with the clock now approaching 10 PM, I decided it was time to call it a night. Good night. Good morning. It's just around 6 AM and we are just about to leave the high-speed line to serve Guangzhou station. However, as the line ahead of us actually isn't ready to accommodate our arrival yet, we have to make an unscheduled stop here at Guangzhou Baiyun station. A few moments later, we are on the move again, now heading for the more centrally located Guangzhou station, where our train pulls in at 06:37, running just a couple of minutes behind schedule. Not long after, we quickly get moving again, just as the sun begins to rise over this mega city, home to around 18 million people. We are now traveling along the Guangshen railway line, and yes, you guessed it, that's the name for the railway line between Guangzhou and Shenzhen. The line played an important role in developing China's high-speed railway network, being one of the first lines to be upgraded for speeds of up to around 200 km per hour. This was in part achieved by buying one single Swedish X2000 high-speed train, which operated services between the two cities from 1998 until 2007. Even today, there's still a bit of Swedish influence left, as the Chinese version of the Bombardier Regina train, also found in Sweden, is frequently used on services in this area. So, how did I sleep? Honestly, pretty well. While the train can be a little noisy at 250 km per hour, the ride itself is really smooth and the actual bed itself is surprisingly comfy, especially in combination with the really good duvet and pillow. Overall, I had no trouble sleeping really. Honestly, the scale of China's high-speed railway network continues to amaze me. I've just traveled 2,200 kilometers overnight, pretty much entirely on dedicated high-speed railway lines only. That's basically the equivalent of traveling overnight from Copenhagen to Rome in 12 hours. Just for comparison, Nightjet takes 14 hours just to go from Munich to Rome. We are now on the final stretch of our journey, making our way around the densely populated cities surrounding the Pearl River Delta. I should mention there's no Wi-Fi on board the train, not that you would really want to use it as a Westerner anyway, but I had no trouble getting a mobile signal as coverage across China is generally excellent. Our train is now leaving the Guangshen Railway, climbing up onto this impressive series of viaducts as we join the newer high-speed line towards Shenzhen Bay and Hong Kong. We are now making our penultimate stop at Dongguan Station, and from here we are only a 20-minute ride away from our final destination of Shenzhen Bay, so let me start summarizing the trip. I paid 860 Chinese won for my upper bunk, which is a fixed price for this journey and does not change based on demand. I thought this was really reasonable considering I got to lie flat on a high-speed train for 12 hours. Overall, I quite enjoyed that. It's not as good as a private sleeper, but I would much rather take this as a solo traveler than the shared 4-6 person couchettes we have in Europe. And I think that's the main takeaway. I really like pods on sleeper trains, because they give you the sense of privacy of a sleeper while taking up far less space, which keeps fares low for solo travelers. And at least in this case, even though the train is pods only, if you prefer a more traditional room, there's still 3 other overnight services on this route that offer shared compartments. The only real downside for me is that the pods are closed off with thin curtains, which is not great for noise. Something a bit more substantial, like what you find on the Nightjet, would definitely be better. Probably also for sense of security, although this was not a concern I had in China. So, what did you think of this futuristic sleeper train? Would you like to try something like this, or would you prefer a more traditional room? Let me know in the comments below. Our train pulls into Shenzhen Bay or Shenzhen North Station a few minutes ahead of schedule at 0801. after what I thought was a comfortable journey on what is certainly one of the most unique trains in the world.
看完这趟旅程，你就会明白，外国博主震惊的不是一张床，而是中国交通系统背后的恐怖效率。2200多公里，12个多小时，躺着从北京到深圳，这背后是高铁网络运营能力和基础设施密度的全面支撑。更关键的是，它不是只给少数人看的科技样板，而是一张真实可以买到、可以体验、价格还算合理的车票。这才是最有冲击力的地方。当有些地方还在争论夜间火车该不该复兴时，中国已经把高铁酒店开上了轨道。如果是你，愿意花860元体验这种高速卧铺，还是更喜欢传统包厢？评论区说说你的选择。下一段更值得看，因为外国博主真正震惊的还不只是这趟车本身。